As Israel advances further into Gaza, it strikes an ambulance and a school overnight, killing 20 people, according to Gaza's health ministry. Israeli troops are continuing with their advance through the Gaza Strip and have already encircled Gaza City. There were more Israeli airstrikes overnight on Friday, with Israel rejecting the UN's call for a ceasefire and President Biden's call for humanitarian pauses in the fighting. Israeli warplanes bombed this school in northern Gaza. The Hamas-run health ministry said 20 people were killed. Israel also struck an ambulance that it said Hamas members were using. After viewing the video of the scene, UN Secretary-General Antonio Guterres said he was horrified at the strike and described the humanitarian situation in Gaza as horrific. Israel is also being targeted. Air raid sirens went off in the central city of Jaffa and early on Saturday morning in the southern city of Eilat. So far in this war, more than 1,400 Israelis and more than 9,000 Palestinians have been killed. The UN says more than half of the population in Gaza has now been uprooted by the fighting. 1.5 million Gazans out of an estimated 2.7 million have now been displaced. However, at the Rafah border crossing with Egypt, only around 800 people, almost all of them dual nationals and a few dozen wounded, have been allowed to flee.
What we've seen unfold over the last 26 days in Israel and in the occupied territories is nothing short of what I think I would call a blight on our collective conscience, all of us. We're all somehow involved in this.
There's not enough food to go around in Gaza, and there's not enough drinking water, as Israel has cut off most of the water supply. The UN says Gazans are receiving less than a tenth of the water they used to receive before the war. Many Gazans say they now have to drink dirty water, which is making them ill. In Beirut, Hezbollah leader Hassan Nasrallah has made his first comments on the Israel-Hamas war. He praised Hamas for attacking Israel and taking hostages, and said his militia is already engaged in cross-border fighting with Israel, but he also threatened to escalate the attacks.
اليوم ما يجري في غزة ليس حربا كبقية الحروب السابقة وليس حادثا كبقية الحوادث، ليست معركة كبقية المعارك، هي معركة فاصلة حاسمة تاريخية، ما بعدها ليس كما قبلها على الإطلاق.
Analysts believe Hezbollah is keeping Israel's military engaged on its border with Lebanon, but that it doesn't want an all-out war.
أما في جبهتنا اللبنانية نحن لأن البعض بيقول السيد بده يعلن عن دخول المعركة، نحن دخلنا المعركة من 8 تشرين أول.
In recent days, Israel has hit Hezbollah targets in southern Lebanon, killing dozens of militants and civilians. And up to 7 Israeli soldiers and 1 civilian have died in Hezbollah rocket fire into northern Israel in the latest clashes. With the backing of Iran, Israel considers Hezbollah as its biggest threat. The earthquake that hit northwestern Nepal on Friday night is known to have killed more than 140 people, but that number will almost certainly rise as communications with many areas has been cut. It measured 5.6 on the Richter scale and most affected the Jajakot district. The authorities say they're now focused on rescuing any survivors from the rubble of buildings and getting the injured to hospital. At the regional hospital in the city of Nepal Gunj, more than 100 beds were made available and teams of doctors stood by to help the injured.
More than 600 people have been evacuated from their homes in Valencia, Spain, after an out-of-control fire burnt through some 1,400 hectares of forest. A sleepless night for firefighters as the inferno affected several villages and towns, including the municipality of La Vall d'Albaida, where at least 1 house burnt down. The flames even reached the border of the province of Alicante. According to local authorities, the fire started with a small outbreak, but the strong winds in the region caused it to spread rapidly.